The year was 2187. Humans had spread across the solar system and begun to explore nearby stars. The United Earth Defense Force had sent its best pilots to protect the outer colonies. Squadron 42, known as the Spectres, was the most elite unit. With 12 of the best pilots ever trained, Commander Jack Harding looked out from the bridge of the UES Valiant. The massive carrier ship moved slowly through space near Tau Ceti, a star not too far from Earth. Jack was tall, with short gray hair and a face marked by years of combat. He had led Squadron 42 for 5 years now. "Status report, Lieutenant," Jack said, turning to his second-in-command. Lieutenant Olivia Bennett stood at attention. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her blue flight suit showed her rank clearly. "All systems normal, sir. The mining colony on Tau Ceti 4 reports no unusual activity." Jack nodded. This patrol was supposed to be routine. The mining colony had been sending valuable minerals back to Earth for 3 years without any problems. "Sir, I'm picking up an unusual energy reading," said Corporal Lisa Wright from her monitoring station. Lisa was the squadron's systems expert. She could fix almost any piece of technology, often while under fire. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. "It's coming from near the mining colony. I've never seen anything like it." Jack moved to her station. "Show me." The screen displayed a swirling pattern of energy. It looked like a storm in space, growing larger by the second. "Get the squadron ready to launch," Jack ordered. "Lieutenant Bennett, you're with me." "Sergeant Martinez, prepare defensive systems." Sergeant Paul Martinez nodded grimly. The weapons specialist was built like a tank, with broad shoulders and steady hands. He had saved the squadron more times than Jack could count. Within minutes, the 12 fighters of Squadron 42 launched from the Valiant. Their ships were the newest model, the F-77 Raptor, sleek and deadly. Each was painted with the squadron's ghost emblem. Jack led the formation toward the energy anomaly. "Stay tight. We don't know what we're dealing with." "Commander," Olivia's voice came through the comm. "The energy pattern is changing. It's opening." Before their eyes, space itself seemed to tear apart. A glowing rift appeared, pulsing with strange light. Then ships began to emerge. They were unlike anything Jack had ever seen. The alien vessels were dark, with curves and angles that hurt the eyes. They seemed to shimmer, as if they weren't fully in this reality. "I count 15 enemy ships," said Private Ethan Clark, the youngest pilot in the squadron. Despite being only 22, Ethan had natural talent that made him a valuable team member. "No, wait, 20 now." Jack opened a channel to the Valiant. "Captain, we have multiple unknown vessels emerging near Tau Ceti 4. Request immediate backup." "Understood, Commander," came the reply. "We're moving to your position, but we're 3 hours out at maximum speed." Jack grimaced. 3 hours was too long. "Squadron 42, we are the only defense between these unknowns and the mining colony. 5,000 civilians are down there." As if hearing his words, the alien ship suddenly accelerated toward the planet. "They're heading for the colony," Ethan shouted. "Engage defensive formation Delta," Jack ordered. "Protect that colony at all costs." The 12 fighters of Squadron 42 moved into position, creating a barrier between the aliens and the planet. They were outnumbered almost 2-1. The first shots came without warning. Beams of purple energy lanced out from the wall, alien ships narrowly missing Ethan's fighter. "Return fire, targeted bursts only," Jack commanded. "Save your missiles until we know more about their defenses." The squadron fired their cannons. Most shots seemed to pass through the alien ships as if they weren't fully solid. "My targeting system can't lock on," Paul reported. "It's like they're partly here and partly somewhere else." Lisa's voice cut in. "I'm adjusting my sensors to detect gravitational distortions instead of energy signatures. Try matching these settings." Jack quickly implemented the changes. His targeting system finally showed solid contacts. "Good work, Corporal. Squadron, adjust your sensors according to Wright's specifications." The battle intensified. Now able to target the enemy, Squadron 42 destroyed 3 alien ships in quick succession, but the aliens responded with overwhelming force. "I'm hit," came a cry over the comm. It was pilot Sam Johnson. His fighter spun out of control, trailing debris. "Engines down, weapons offline." "Eject, Sam," Jack ordered. But before the pilot could respond, an alien beam cut through his fighter. The explosion was brief in the vacuum of space. Jack pushed down his grief. There would be time for that later. Titan formation. Cover each other's blind spots. The squadron fought valiantly, but they were losing ground. 2 more pilots were lost in quick succession. The alien ships pressed forward, getting closer to the planet. "Commander," Olivia called. "I'm noticing a pattern. The aliens are protecting something in the center of their formation." Jack studied his display. She was right. The alien ships were arranged around what seemed to be a larger vessel, still emerging from the rift. "That must be their command ship," Jack said. "If we can destroy it, maybe the others will retreat." Ethan's fighter darted forward, targeting an alien ship near the edge of their formation. His shots connected, causing the alien vessel to explode in a flash of strange light. "Nice shooting, Private," Jack said. "Commander, my ship is damaged," Ethan reported. "I need to set down on the colony for repairs." "Understood, be careful down there." Jack watched as Ethan's fighter headed toward the planet's surface. The mining colony came through on the emergency channel. "This is Dr. Catherine Nelson, lead researcher at Tau Ceti Mining Outpost. What's happening up there?" "This is Commander Harding of Squadron 42. We're engaging hostile forces. Begin emergency evacuation procedures." "Commander," Catherine's voice was tense but controlled. "You need to know something. We found artifacts in the deeper mines, ancient technology. We were studying them when they started to activate on their own." Jack felt a chill. "Are you saying you caused this?" "Not intentionally, but the artifacts seem to be some kind of beacon. I think we called them here." The battle raged on. Squadron 42 was down to 8 fighters now. The aliens had lost several ships but still outnumbered them. Jack made a decision. "Squadron, fall back to the colony. We need to regroup and come up with a new strategy." As they retreated toward Tau Ceti IV, Jack watched the rift grow larger. More alien ships were coming through. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. The UES Valiant was still hours away. For now, Squadron 42 was on its own. Private Ethan Clark landed his damaged fighter on the main platform of the Tau Ceti mining colony. Smoke rose from the left engine, and warning lights flashed across his control panel. He popped the canopy and climbed out, scanning the area for signs of danger. The colony was on high alert. Sirens wailed as miners and their families rushed toward the emergency bunkers. Security personnel directed the crowds, their faces tense with worry. A woman in a white lab coat ran toward him. "You must be from Squadron 42, she said. "I'm Dr. Catherine Nelson." Ethan nodded. "Private Clark, is there somewhere I can repair my fighter?" "The maintenance bay is this way," Catherine said, leading him across the landing pad. "But first you need to see what we found." In the sky above, the battle continued. The remaining 8 fighters of Squadron 42 dodged and weaved through the alien formation, trying to buy time for the colony. Commander Jack Harding's voice crackled over Ethan's comm unit. "Squadron, fall back to the colony. Defensive positions." Catherine led Ethan to a secure lab deep within the colony. Inside, 3 large objects sat on examination tables. They looked like smooth black stones with strange symbols that glowed with a pulsing blue light. "We found these in the deepest mine shaft," Catherine explained. "They're over 50,000 years old according to our tests. We've been studying them for months." Ethan approached cautiously. "And you think these things called the aliens?" "Yesterday they started glowing. Then this morning they began pulsing in sequence. 3 hours later, your squadron detected the energy anomaly." Ethan activated his comm. "Commander, you need to hear this." Outside the colony, Squadron 42 regrouped. Their fighters formed a protective barrier around the main settlement. The alien ships kept their distance, still surrounding what appeared to be their command vessel. "The aliens aren't attacking the colony directly," Olivia noted. "They seem focused on protecting that larger ship still coming through the rift." Jack studied the enemy formation. "They're waiting for something. or someone. Lisa's voice came through the comm. Commander, I've been analyzing their movement patterns. They're not just random, it's almost like they're stabilizing the rift. For what purpose? Paul asked. To bring something bigger through, Jack said grimly. Ethan's report about the artifacts confirmed Jack's fears. The aliens were responding to an ancient beacon, and they were bringing reinforcements. Jack addressed his remaining pilots. We need to stop that command ship from fully emerging. Any ideas? There was silence for a moment. Then Lisa spoke up. Sir, these artifacts Dr. Nelson found, if they're what opened the rift, maybe they can help us close it. I'm listening, Corporal. Our fighters' engines create controlled reactions to generate thrust. If we could modify them using principles from these artifacts, we might be able to create an energy field that destabilizes the rift. Jack considered this. It was risky, but they had few options. Dr. Nelson, is this possible? In theory, yes, Catherine replied over the comm, but it would require precise modifications to your engine cores, and there's no guarantee it would work. It's better than waiting to be overwhelmed, Jack decided. Squadron, land at the colony. We're going to make these modifications. As the fighters landed one by one, the miners and colony technicians gathered to help. Catherine directed the modifications, working closely with Lisa to adapt the alien technology to their engines. Jack stood with Olivia, watching the sky. The alien ships continued to orbit the rift, which had grown even larger. What do you think they want? Olivia asked quietly. I don't know, Jack admitted. But they came ready for war, so that's what they'll get. Paul approached them, his face grim. Perimeter sensors show more alien ships landing on the far side of the colony. Ground troops. Jack nodded. Take all available security personnel and set up defensive positions. Buy us time to finish these modifications. Paul hurried away, gathering men and women with weapons experience. The colony wasn't built for war, but its people were resourceful. In the maintenance bay, Lisa and Catherine worked frantically on the fighters. They had removed parts of the artifact casings, integrating them into the engine control systems. This is going to change how your ships handle, Catherine warned. The energy output will be unpredictable. Lisa nodded. I've adjusted the control interfaces to compensate, but it's still going to be rough. Ethan helped where he could, his young face serious. Will this really work? It has to, Lisa replied simply. The sound of gunfire echoed from the colony's outer sections. Paul's voice came through the comm. Commander, we've engaged alien ground forces. They're using some kind of phase technology, appearing and disappearing, at will. Hold them as long as you can, Sergeant, Jack ordered. He turned to Olivia. Work out a flight pattern that will maximize the effect of these modified engines. We'll need to create a field around the rift. Olivia nodded and began drawing, on a digital map, plotting approach vectors and timing sequences. 3 hours after landing, 7 fighters were ready. The 8th had been too damaged to modify in time. Jack gathered his pilots. This mission is voluntary. The modifications are untested. There's a good chance none of us will make it back. No one spoke up to leave. These were the pilots of Squadron 42, the best Earth had to offer. Commander, Ethan said suddenly, my fighter is the most damaged. Let me take the artifacts directly into the rift. The scientists think it would amplify the collapse. Jack stared at the young pilot. That's a one-way trip, Private. Ethan met his gaze steadily. I know, sir. After a moment, Jack nodded. It was Ethan's choice to make. As they prepared to launch, Catherine approached Jack. Commander, there's something else you should know. The symbols we've begun to translate, they suggest these aliens aren't invaders. Jack frowned. What do you mean? The artifacts contain references to seeking refuge and fleeing the darkness. What if they're running from something worse? Before Jack could respond, Paul's voice came urgently through the comm. Commander, the aliens have breached the outer defenses. We can't hold them much longer. We launch now, Jack ordered. May God help us all. 7 fighters rose from the colony. their engines glowing with an eerie blue light. Behind them, Ethan's damaged fighter carried its precious cargo of alien artifacts. In the distance, the rift pulsed with increasing intensity. Something massive was emerging, something that could change the fate of humanity forever. Squadron 42 flew toward it, determined to close the door before it was too late. The 7 fighters of Squadron 42 flew in tight formation toward the glowing rift. Their modified engines left strange blue trails in the vacuum of space. Behind them, Private Ethan Clark followed in his damaged fighter, carrying the alien artifacts. Commander, Jack Harding checked his instruments. The modifications were holding, but his control panel showed unusual energy readings. "Remember the plan," Jack said over the comm. "We need to create a field around the rift using our modified engines. Lieutenant Bennett will lead the pattern. Private Clark will deliver the artifacts directly into the center. If this works, the combined energy should collapse the rift." "Commander, the alien ships are moving to intercept," Olivia warned. The enemy vessels had broken their protective formation around the half-emerged command ship. Corporal Wright, "What's our status?" Jack asked. Lisa's voice was tense. "Energy buildup is stable so far. We'll need to get within 5 kilometers of the rift for maximum effect." "Sergeant Martinez, any word from the colony?" "The security team is holding the inner perimeter," Paul reported. "But the aliens are pressing hard. Dr. Nelson is leading the civilians to the emergency bunkers." Jack took a deep breath. "Squadron, engage the enemy. Clear a path for Private Clark." The battle erupted instantly. Alien ships swarmed toward them, firing purple energy beams. Squadron 42 responded with everything they had. Jack rolled his fighter to avoid enemy fire, then targeted an alien ship blocking their path. His shots connected, causing the enemy vessel to shimmer and then explode. Olivia executed a perfect attack run, destroying 2 alien ships in quick succession. "Keep moving, don't let them box us in." Paul's fighter took a hit to its wing but kept flying. "My left stabilizer is damaged, but I can still maintain formation." As they pushed closer to the rift, the alien command ship became more visible. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of their fighters, with multiple weapon ports that glowed with gathering energy. "That thing is nearly halfway through," Lisa observed. "We don't have much time." The modified engines on their fighters began to pulse more intensely as they approached the rift. Jack could feel his ship vibrating. "Begin the pattern," he ordered. "Lieutenant Bennett, take the lead." Olivia's fighter moved to the front position. "Follow my flight path exactly. We need to create a perfect energy field." The 7 fighters began a complex dance around the edges of the rift, their engines leaving trails of blue energy that seemed to connect and form a web-like structure. The alien ships tried to disrupt their pattern but couldn't predict their movements. Behind them, Ethan approached in his damaged fighter. "I'm in position, Commander, ready to make my run when you give the word." Jack glanced at his sensors. The energy field was building, but not quickly enough. The alien command ship continued to emerge, now more than halfway through the rift. "We need more power," Jack decided. "Squadron, increase engine output to maximum." "Sir, that could destabilize the modifications," Lisa warned. "We have no choice," Jack replied. The squadron pushed their engines harder. The blue energy trails intensified, creating a visible bubble around the rift. But the strain was taking its toll on their ships. "My engine temperature is critical," Paul reported. "Hold the pattern," Jack ordered. The alien command ship began firing massive energy beams, far more powerful than its smaller counterparts. One beam struck near Jack's fighter, causing his systems to flicker. "We can't take much more of that," Olivia said. Jack made a split-second decision. "Private Clark, begin your approach. Everyone else maintain the field for as long as possible." Ethan acknowledged and accelerated toward the center of the rift. 3 alien ships immediately broke, off to intercept him. "I'll clear his path," Jack said, peeling away from the formation. "Commander, if you break the pattern," Lisa began. "Lieutenant Bennett will maintain it," Jack interrupted. "Private Clark needs cover." Jack pushed his fighter to maximum speed, targeting the alien ships pursuing Ethan. He destroyed one, then another, drawing fire away from the young pilot. The third alien ship proved more difficult. It stayed on Ethan's tail, firing repeatedly. Ethan's already damaged fighter couldn't take another hit. Jack positioned himself between Ethan and the alien ship. "Keep going, Private, don't look back." The alien ship fired. Jack tried to evade but took a direct hit to his engine. Warning lights flooded his cockpit. His fighter began to spin, systems failing. "Commander," Olivia shouted over the comm. "Maintain the pattern," Jack ordered, fighting to regain control. "That's an order." With his fighter crippled, Jack made the only move he had left. He aimed directly for the alien ship pursuing Ethan and activated his remaining thrusters. "For Earth," he said quietly, moments before impact. The collision destroyed both vessels, creating a momentary gap in the alien defense. Ethan seized the opportunity, flying straight toward the rift. "Commander Harding just saved my approach," Ethan said, his voice tight with emotion. "I won't waste it." From the colony, Dr. Catherine Nelson was monitoring their communications. "Private Clark, listen carefully. You need to activate the artifacts before you reach the center of the rift. The sequence is blue, red, blue." "Understood," Ethan replied. He reached over to the artifacts secured beside him. The symbols were glowing in different colors now. He pressed the blue glowing sections, then red, then blue again. The artifacts responded immediately, pulsing with intense light. Ethan's fighter shook violently. "It's working," he reported. "The artifacts are interfacing with the rift somehow." The remaining pilots of Squadron 42 maintained their pattern, creating the energy field despite the loss of their commander. Their ships were at breaking point, engines overheating, systems failing. "Ethan, you need to eject now," Olivia ordered. "You've done your part." Ethan looked at the approaching center of the rift, then at the ejection handle. "Not yet. I need to make sure the artifacts reach the exact center." His fighter entered the outer boundary of the rift. Strange energies washed over his ship, causing instruments to fail one by one. The alien command ship loomed before him, impossibly large. "Now, Private," Olivia shouted. "Eject now." Ethan waited until the last possible moment, his hand hovering over the ejection handle. His fighter was only seconds away from colliding with the command ship. "For the commander," he whispered, and pulled the handle. The canopy blew off, and Ethan was launched into space as his fighter, carrying the activated artifacts, plunged directly into the heart of the rift and struck the alien command ship. The explosion was unlike anything they had ever seen. Light erupted in impossible colors, expanding outward in a shockwave of energy. "Break formation," Olivia yelled. "Full thrust away from the rift." The 5 remaining fighters turned and accelerated away from the collapsing rift. The energy field they had created began to contract rapidly, pulling everything nearby toward the center. Lisa's fighter suddenly lost power. "My engines are dead," she reported calmly. "I can't get clear." Paul immediately turned back. "I'm coming for you, Corporal." "There's no time," Lisa argued. "There's always time for a Spectre," Paul replied, maneuvering his fighter alongside hers. He fired a special tether connecting their ships. "Hang on." With their fighters linked, Paul pushed his engines beyond their limits, dragging Lisa's powerless ship away from the collapsing rift. Behind them, the alien command ship was being torn apart as the rift imploded. The remaining alien vessels were pulled into the vortex, unable to escape. In a final, blinding flash, the rift collapsed completely. Where once there had been a tear in space, now there was nothing but stars. Silence filled the comm channel as the 5 surviving pilots of Squadron 42 stared at the empty space where the rift had been. The stars shone peacefully against the black backdrop of space, giving no hint of the battle that had just taken place. Lieutenant Olivia Bennett was the first to speak. "Status report, everyone. Engine at 12%. Life support stable," Paul Martinez replied, his fighter still connected to Lisa's by the tether. "Corporal Wright is safe." "Confirmed," Lisa said. "My ship is dead, but I'm alive thanks to Sergeant Martinez." 2 other pilots checked in, both reporting damage but stable conditions. "Private Clark?" Olivia called. "Ethan, do you copy?" There was no response at first. Then a weak signal came through. Lieutenant, I'm here. Ejected. Suit thrusters. Damaged. Drifting. Olivia immediately locked onto his signal. Hang tight, Private. I'm coming to get you. She turned her fighter toward his location, pushing her damaged engines carefully. In the distance, she could see the small shape of his spacesuit, tumbling slowly among the debris from the battle. The rest of you, return to the colony, Olivia ordered. Check on their situation with the ground forces. Yes, Lieutenant, the others acknowledged, turning their ships toward Tau Ceti 4. Olivia approached Ethan's drifting form carefully. The young pilot's suit showed signs of damage from the energy wave that had erupted when the rift collapsed. She maneuvered her fighter alongside him, then activated the emergency retrieval system. A small hatch opened on the side of her ship, allowing her to guide him inside the secondary compartment. Once Ethan was secure, Olivia set course for the colony. How are you doing, Private? Alive, he responded weakly through the internal comm. The commander. He saved me. He saved all of us, Olivia said quietly. She felt the weight of command settling on her shoulders. Jack was gone, and now she led what remained of Squadron 42. As they approached the colony, Olivia could see signs of the ground battle. Several buildings were damaged, and smoke rose from the outer sections, but the main structures stood intact. This is Lieutenant Bennett. To Tau Ceti Mining Colony, what's your status? Dr. Catherine Nelson's voice came through with evident relief. Lieutenant, thank goodness. The alien ground forces, like they just disappeared when the rift collapsed. 1 minute they were breaking through our inner defenses, the next they simply vanished. Understood. We're coming in to land. 5 fighters, plus 1 survivor in a spacesuit. Olivia guided her ship toward the main landing pad. The other fighters were already setting down, their damaged hulls reflecting the colony's lights. Medical teams rushed forward to help the injured pilots. As soon as the engines powered down, Olivia helped Ethan from the secondary compartment. He could barely stand, his face pale and drawn. Medics took him immediately, placing him on a stretcher. Don't let them take the artifacts, he mumbled as they carried him away. Olivia frowned, not understanding what he meant. The artifacts had been destroyed with his fighter, hadn't they? Dr. Nelson met Olivia as she climbed down from her cockpit. The scientist looked exhausted, with a bandage on her forehead and dirt smudging her lab coat. Lieutenant, your squadron just saved 5,000 lives, Catherine said, but we have a situation you need to see. Olivia followed her through the colony's corridors. They passed groups of civilians, some injured, others helping with repairs. Despite the damage, there was a sense of relief. They had survived. In the main laboratory, Paul and Lisa were already waiting. Lisa sat in a chair, clearly exhausted, while Paul stood guard at the door. What's going on? Olivia asked. Catherine pointed to a table in the center of the room. On it sat a single artifact identical to the ones that had been in Ethan's fighter. It pulsed with a gentle blue light. This appeared in our lab at the exact moment the rift collapsed, Catherine explained. It wasn't here before. Lisa stepped forward, scanning the object with a handheld device. The energy signature matches the artifacts we found, but it's different. Somehow. More refined. Is it dangerous? Paul asked, his hand resting on his sidearm. I don't think so, Catherine said. But it's changing. Look. The symbols on the artifact were shifting, rearranging themselves slowly. New patterns formed and faded. It's trying to communicate, Catherine whispered. Olivia approached cautiously. Can you understand any of it? Catherine shook her head. Not yet, but our translation program is working on it. Give it time. A technician rushed into the room. Lieutenant Bennett, we're picking up a signal. It's the UES Valiant. They're entering the system now. Relief washed over Olivia. Reinforcements had finally arrived, though too late to help in the battle. Tell them we need medical assistance and damage assessment teams, she ordered. As the technician left, Olivia looked at the surviving members of her squadron. We lost good people today. Commander Harding, the other pilots, will honor their sacrifice. Paul nodded solemnly. The specters never die. They just fade away, Lisa managed a small smile at the squadron's old saying. For the next few hours, they helped coordinate recovery efforts. The Valiant arrived and launched shuttles, with medical teams and supplies. Engineers began repairs on the damaged areas of the colony. The injured, including Ethan, received treatment. Olivia found herself in the colony's communications center, preparing to report to Earth Command. She stared at the blank screen, unsure how to explain what had happened. How could she describe the rift, the alien ships that seemed to exist between dimensions, the sacrifice of her commander and fellow pilots? Would Earth Command even believe her? Before she could begin her report, alarms sounded throughout the colony. "Lieutenant," Paul's voice came through her comm unit. "The artifact, it's doing something." Olivia rushed back to the laboratory. Inside, she found Catherine, Paul, and Lisa, standing around the artifact, which was now glowing intensely. The symbols had stopped shifting and settled into a fixed pattern. "Our translation program just completed its first pass," Catherine said, her voice filled with wonder and fear. "It's not just an artifact. It's a message." "What does it say?" Olivia asked. Catherine turned to her computer and read, "We flee the Void Eaters. They consume worlds, dimensions, realities. We sought refuge. You closed the path. Now you must prepare. They have sensed your world." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "The aliens weren't invaders," Lisa said quietly. "They were refugees." Paul looked grim. "And we just alerted whatever was chasing them to our presence." Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. She thought of Commander Harding, of his courage in the face of the unknown. What would he do now? The artifact pulsed once more, then projected a holographic image above its surface. It showed galaxy after galaxy being swallowed by a spreading darkness. "How much time do we have?" Olivia asked. Catherine shook her head. "There's no way to know. But the message says one more thing." She paused, looking at the translation. "It says we will help you fight." In that moment, Lieutenant Olivia Bennett understood that the Battle of Squadron 42 wasn't an end. It was just the beginning. 3 days after the battle, the UES Valiant hung in orbit above Tau Ceti 4. The massive carrier ship had brought much-needed supplies and reinforcements to the mining colony. Repair crews worked around the clock to fix the damage caused by the alien ground forces. Lieutenant Olivia Bennett stood at attention in the Valiant's main briefing room. Across from her sat Admiral Frank Cooper, the head of Earth's Defense Force. His weathered face showed no emotion as he reviewed the reports on his screen. "So, Lieutenant," he said, finally looking up, "you're telling me that these aliens were refugees, not invaders, and now we may face something much worse?" "Yes, sir," Olivia replied. The artifact's message was clear. These Void Eaters consume entire realities, and they're headed our way. Admiral Cooper leaned back in his chair. "And Commander Harding? You're certain he was lost?" Olivia's expression remained professional, though grief flickered in her eyes. "Yes, sir. He sacrificed himself to ensure our mission succeeded. As did several other pilots." Cooper nodded solemnly. "Jack was one of our best. He'll receive the highest honors, as will all those who fell." Dr. Catherine Nelson sat nearby, the recovered artifact secured in a special container beside her. "Admiral, there's more you need to know. The artifact has continued to transmit information. We're learning about these refugees. They call themselves the Shimmerkin. Their dimension was the first to fall to the Void Eaters." "Can we communicate with them?" Cooper asked. "Are there more of them out there?" "We believe so," Catherine replied. "The artifact seems to be a kind of beacon. If we can repair it properly, we might be able to call any surviving Shimmerkin ships to our aid." Sergeant Paul Martinez spoke, up from his position near the door. "With all due respect, sir, how do we know we can trust them? They did attack us first." "They were scared," said a weak voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Private Ethan Clark leaning on a crutch. His face was still pale, with healing burns visible on his neck, but his eyes were clear and determined. "Private," Olivia said with surprise. "You should be in medical." Ethan straightened as best he could. Sorry, Lieutenant. I heard the Admiral was here. I needed to tell him what I saw. Cooper gestured for him to enter. What did you see, son? When I was in the rift, sir, just before I ejected, Ethan explained, I saw inside their command ship. They weren't soldiers. They were families, children. The ship was a refugee transport, not a warship. The room fell silent as his words sank in. Corporal Lisa Wright, who had been working at a computer terminal, turned to face them. That matches what I've found in the artifact's data. The Shimmerkin were a peaceful species until the Void Eaters came. They've been running for what would be equivalent to 50 Earth years. Admiral Cooper's face grew grim. And now they've led this threat to our doorstep. Not intentionally, Catherine said quickly. They were desperate. Cooper stood and walked to the viewport, looking down at the planet below. After a long moment, he turned back to face them. Lieutenant Bennett, you and your surviving pilots have shown exceptional courage and skill. Squadron 42 saved countless lives. He paused. But now we face a threat unlike anything humanity has encountered before. We need a specialized team to prepare for what's coming. He looked at each of them in turn. Dr. Nelson, your knowledge of these artifacts is invaluable. Sergeant Martinez, your combat experience and leadership saved many colonists. Corporal Wright, your technical skills allowed Squadron 42 to even engage the enemy. And Private Clark, your willingness to sacrifice yourself speaks to your character. What are you suggesting, sir? Olivia asked. I'm creating a new task force, Cooper said firmly. Effective immediately, the survivors of Squadron 42 are redesignated as Task Force Sentinel. Your mission, prepare humanity for the coming storm. Olivia stood straighter. We accept the mission, Admiral. Good. Cooper nodded. You'll have whatever resources you need. Dr. Nelson will serve as your chief scientific advisor. I want options, Lieutenant. Defensive systems, weapons, communications, anything that might give us an edge. What about trying to contact more Shimmerkin? Lisa asked. Proceed with caution, Cooper warned. But yes, potential allies would be valuable. After the briefing, the newly formed Task Force Sentinel gathered in the Valiant's observation deck. Through the large windows, they could see the stars and the curve of Tau Ceti 4 below. Commander, Paul said, addressing Olivia with her new rank. What's our first move? Olivia considered the question. Lisa, I want you and Dr. Nelson working on that artifact. If we can communicate with the Shimmerkin, we need to do it soon. Already on it, Lisa replied. I've been studying their technology. It's incredible. They exist partially in another dimension, which is why our weapons had trouble targeting them at first. Paul, Olivia continued, start training programs. If these Void Eaters come, we'll need pilots who can adapt to unusual combat situations. Yes, Commander, Paul acknowledged. I'll develop new tactics based on what we learned. Ethan, still leaning on his crutch, looked uncertain. What about me? Olivia smiled slightly. Once you're healed, Private, you'll be back in a fighter. You've earned your place in this task force. Dr. Nelson entered the observation deck, her face excited. Commander, we've received authorization to establish a research base here at Tau Ceti. The colonists are volunteering to help. Many of them worked in scientific fields before turning to mining. Good, Olivia nodded. We'll need every advantage. As they discussed plans, a technician rushed in. Commander Bennett, we're detecting an energy signature near the edge of the system. It's small, but it matches the rift pattern from before. The mood in the room instantly changed. Everyone tensed, ready for action. Show me, Olivia ordered. On the main screen, a tiny flicker of energy appeared, then vanished. It lasted only seconds, but it was unmistakable. They found us, Ethan whispered. Dr. Nelson studied the readings. It's too small for anything to come through, more like a probe. They're testing the waters. Olivia's face hardened with determination. Then we better be ready when they decide to dive in. She turned to her team. This is what Squadron 42, what Task Force Sentinel, was made for. Protecting humanity from threats beyond our understanding. Paul nodded. The specters never die. They just fade away. The others finished the squadron's motto. As night fell over Tau Ceti, therefore, research vessels began constructing a defensive perimeter around the location where the rift had been, the first of many such defenses humanity would build in the coming months. In the medical bay, Ethan sat by a window looking at the stars. Commander Bennett joined him, following his gaze. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked quietly. "I know they will," she replied. "But this time we'll be ready." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Get some rest, Private. Tomorrow we start preparing for war." In the vastness of space beyond the edge of the solar system, another small dimensional fluctuation appeared and disappeared. Unnoticed by Earth's monitoring systems, something crossed over. Something small, but significant. A seed of darkness, planted in humanity's reality. The Battle of Squadron 42 was just the beginning.